Boom, we are live. Welcome. This is Tokyo Tonight 2. Good to have you along. Good to see so many people already there in the comments, and good to see you back again every week here at 11 o'clock, 11 p.m. Japan time, Japan Standard Time, and wherever you are in the world, hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Good to have you along. Got a few things to talk about today. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Yes, good to see Robert Old Dude here with a slightly premature boom there, but all good. That was about 50 minutes ago. We got Matagashinka with a questioned boom. The real boom just happened, of course, as it always does every week. We have Mr. Cordy Chep anticipating that this whole video is going to be around about butter. There will be butter mentioned, but there is hope for the butter in this case. It's a good discussion in terms of the butter situation. As you will hear, Japan is considering an EPA with Europe and with the EU, and why not? I think that might be a good thing. What else we got here? We got Sir Leedy. Good to have you along, Sir Leedy. Sorry if you felt like I ganged up on you, or I was being a bit harsh on you on Twitter the other day. I definitely did not mean to do that. But yes, very good to be exchanging comments with you during the week. And yes, it is the butter indeed. Andrea Morboy, good to have you along. Indeed, good to see you back. We've got the Sergeant Bilko from Sweden. Good to have you there. Who else we got here? We got Tom R. Hooper. Boom, indeed, good to have you along. Lysander 45, evening all. Davo Hunter, good to have you along, Davo. Light is here. Onegaishimasu, good to see you. We've got Hemingford Grey 62, hello from Milton Keynes. Good to have you from Milton Keynes. We've got Kimmy Kim, welcome back again. Boom. We also have Bradley Ford, Father's Day in Japan is different to Australia. Oh, okay, so you called up Australia and he wasn't expecting it. It is confusing. I think Mother's Day is the same, but Father's Day is different for whatever reason. It's very confusing. Liana, good evening, friends, indeed. Tomar Hooper, how about in them All Blacks? I guess it'll come up if you want to talk about All Blacks. It's not something I talk about on the show normally, but yes, the All Blacks beat Samoa. The last time All Blacks played Samoa, the game was just for a guideline, was like 25-16. It was a close-ish game. I mean, New Zealand's stronger than Samoa, but Samoa has a lot of great players, and actually, like, there are, like, out of the 15 starting lineup for the All Blacks, about 6 or 7 of them are from Samoa. It's a small country, but they produce great rugby players. However, on the weekend, New Zealand All Blacks played Samoa and we won 78-0. It wasn't good for Samoa. It was a good practice run for us, about to play the British and Irish Lions next week, so that was good. The New Zealand Maori selection team called New Zealand Maori played the Lions in a practice game, and they've always done pretty well against the Lions, and they got thrashed. They were terrible. So that wasn't good. Congratulations to all the Scottish people out there, by the way. You guys beat Australia. I mean, Australia was crap, but Scotland now 4th ranked rugby team in the world. That was awesome. Also to all the American people, I again don't have any tweets about this, but the America's Cup final series just started, and same as last time, Oracle versus New Zealand. New Zealand got out to it was first to win 9 races. They have 1 race every day, and it's the first to get to 9 wins. New Zealand was up 8-1, and Oracle, the American boat, turned around and basically won the series after being down 8-1. New Zealand just had 1 win to go. New Zealand's gotten off to another good start, but believe me, New Zealand, we're into yacht racing. We do take it quite seriously. And yeah, be interesting to see how that goes. So yes, indeed, lots of stuff going on there. We got Tai Nakamura in the house. Good to have you along, Tai Nakamura. Oh, in fact, I look up and I see that there's a few people I've missed. Ko Hoshino, good to see you. And Ko, it's good to see that he's been starting doing some videos on Facebook. Try YouTube. Seriously, it's easy, but nice to see you starting that out. That's very good. We got Ing-san. Hi from Denmark. Hello, Denmark. Ing-san, good to have you along. We got, who else we got? We got Tai Nakamura, Ben Duncan. Good to have you back, man. Lysander 45, Plug Dye's new article. It was a good read. I haven't actually read the article myself, but there it is, right there. Is Japan really a land of opportunity? His latest, the Black Eye article in the Japan Times, which came out today. He tweeted it at me, so I of course retweeted. With this question, has Japan been a land of opportunity for you? I guess when I get into the topics, I will answer that question. But yes, okay, if it's a good article, I mean, he's a good writer, so that doesn't surprise me. That's why, of course, I share it right away. Who else we got here? We got Robert XXX001. Only 3 minutes late, don't worry, we're still doing the hellos, the greets here. Welcome, Olivia D, or Robert XX001. Bringing that back. Yeah, no worries at all. 3 minutes late. We've got Olivia D. Good to have you along. We've got What is that? We've got Nunganing, Australia, I presume by the name. Good to have you along indeed. Watching, eating Top Deck. A Top Deck life is great. Watching life and eating. Well, there you go. You are living the life. You're proving that this is probably as good as history gets right now. You can watch me live and eat. There's really nothing else to aspire to, I suppose. Have I seen the anti-racism video from my homeland starring Taiki Waititi? I saw Anna Fifield tweeting it. I started to watch it, and it was like the first line. I was walking to work, so I didn't have time to actually watch the whole thing. It was kind of the one black and white where he says, we need an appeal to bring racism back, and I know it was kind of sarcastic, and I was kind of like, well, that seems kind of stupid, and I stopped watching it after about 10 seconds. Is it good? Should I watch the whole thing through? Olivia D, I might, but I didn't quite see the point of continuing at that point, although everyone says that it's very good. People talking about rockets inappropriate rockets. Don't mess with the rockets, because I am not, I'm neither American nor am I actually a rocket scientist. But I did actually want to be a rocket scientist. I did. Hell, I handmade a telescope as a kid. I was seriously into astronomy, and I really wanted to become an astrophysicist, and I was into all of that, and it never quite worked out that way. I'm hopeful it is going to happen in my lifetime somehow, but you're dealing with someone who likes rockets, and not because they look like, rockets. So yeah, be nice to the rockets, people. And Mr. Quaddy Chip, with the rocket innuendo, that will not be tolerated. In fact, yeah. Stop that right now. Well, I realize that if I say that will encourage it, but seriously, I see that we've also skipped past here. We've got Azuki Island, good evening, and yes, Hemi for Grey 62, I believe I said hello to earlier. We've got Steve Miller, greetings and salutations. Good to have you along, Mr. The Voice of America, by name and nature. Good to have you along. We will be talking a little bit about Dennis Rodman and the whole Otto, I think his name's pronounced Warmbier. I've got to actually check that. But that very unfortunate drama this week. Well, actually, yeah, I guess there's been a lot of updates with North Korea lately, but this is worth bringing up, so I will. That is in the title there. We'll come to that. We've got the Japan dude. Good evening to you, sir. We've got Barringer. Good morning there in Belgium, indeed. And someone told me that the broadcast had commenced, so came to watch it. Well, that's a very smart move, the Japan dude. I think you executed perfectly on that decision. Nicholas Cato, I called this live. Yes, you did. You caught it live, Nicholas. Is it Cato or Kato? I'm happy to call you either way, but the English pronunciation is Cato, so I guess I'll call you that for now. But yes, good to have you along, and welcome. Glad to see a new name catching the show live. Most welcome. Leave comments. Chill with the very excellent people there in the comments, and good to have you along. Top Deck, don't start, Davo. Don't go there. Do not go there. That's right. I mean, I used to have a fantastic deck, but it just we don't really have them here because I've just got a little deck outside because it's Japan, and that sounds totally normal. You guys are the ones with the funny vowels, so yeah, stop it, everybody. Stop mocking my accent. If you watch Flight of the Conchords, dealing with Australians, and the first thing he asked when he met an Australian girl was like, did she mock your accent? This is what we have to put up with. It's tough being a small island country next to Australia sometimes, although half my family is Australian, of course. Pan Cordy, that's right, the moon astronaut. George Stevens, hey, good to have you along. Thank you for saying that I'm incredibly smart. Yes, I need that encouragement. I don't need that encouragement. It's okay, but please feel free to flatter me as much as you like. It would be a good offset for all the rest of the comments and the things that I say about myself. Warmbier, yes, Warmbier. That's how you pronounce his name. That's actually. Well, no, that's the least unfortunate thing about his situation at the moment, but yes. The Japan dude, I don't know, well, I do kind of know what that means, but you're sounding very, very right-wing internet at the moment. We got Brad Ford, good to have you back, good Brad Ford, and indeed we are talking mugs there at the moment. We got Kohoshino, that's right, started to buy a smartphone for the, wow. If you've got a smartphone, go crazy. Seriously, you don't need a computer to do YouTube or Facebook or anything with that. So good move, Goals. I think that's a smart move by you. In this October, see, if you wait till October, you should get, well, I suggest, it's up to you, but you should get the new iPhone. That will be out by then. It's very expensive, but I've been unable to, I'm not an Apple fan, but I have had like iPhones forever because they are awesome. Yes, so I see some immaturity there in the comments. I'll pretend not to notice, and let's get into the subjects, into the topics for tonight. So it is 10 minutes past 11. As always, I will aspire to get this show done a little bit on the early side so I can get some sleep. I got a little bit sunburned in spite of the fact it was nearly raining today. I've just got that sort of skin and lack of protection on top. Coaching kids rugby and whatnot. It's still beautiful, quite nice weather today. But I'm tired, but we'll see how we go. I fill up the time, as you know how it always goes. So let's get into it. And the first one, as was alluded to earlier, apparently this is a good article. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but my good man Brian McNeil, he wrote a new Black Eye article for the Japan Times, which he referred to in his blog. Is Japan really a land of opportunity? And he asks the question, he gives the teaser in his blog there. Of course it can be for some people, but an excerpt. Let's go into the excerpt anyway, because I do need to read the rest of it. I just got this evening. So yes, in my time here, I've met and spoken intimately with my fair share of non-Japanese Westerners. Most of them are Caucasian, yay, Caucasians, but quite a few of African descent, and and African. To me, you don't need to clarify that, but yes, so non-native English speaking, for example, a lot of them are French speaking, whatever. Many of these black folk, that is, originating from countries where English is the official language, Canada, Britain, Jamaica, the US, and so on, initially worked as English instructors to some capacity. However, to teach English is really the reason they leave friends, family, and familiarity behind. Doing so just happens to be the surest way to get situated on these islands, and that's true. I mean, I taught English when I first got to Japan on a working visa, on a working holiday visa. That's how I got my foothold to do other things, so nothing wrong with that at all. However, it is often not the case for people originating from countries where English is a secondary or tertiary language. The lion's share of black people he's met from African nations have shared with me that they arrived in Japan day one with the intent of owning and running a business here. By comparison, I can count on two hands the number of black Americans he's met here who have expressed similar ambitions on day one, and he himself would not be one of those fingers. So there's a moment in each of the conversations with African folk where they express some version of a common theme, that of Japan being a land of opportunity, the opportunity to earn money that can be sent back to family members back at home, and to further their prosperity and increase their opportunities, opportunity to raise a family, safe environment, yada yada yada. Makes sense. Wait, Japan? Really? In Japan? So for me, do I see Japan? Did I come to Japan seeing Japan as a land of opportunity? I didn't come here necessarily looking at Japan as a place to start up my own business, although that's just me being a conservative. I was trained in a trade, which I've shared on the site. I was trained as a lawyer. So lawyers generally will find somewhere to look that's just sort of, we're trained to be conservative and risk averse. But that said, the way I saw it, I'd much rather be working preferably in my trade, although I came teaching English in order to work for free and to get work experience in Japan at law firms while I was working for free, paying for my food and transport and rent by teaching English at night. I did that in the very beginning, and it paid off. It was invested time, and it was in the pursuit of seeing Japan as a land of opportunity. I had a student debt. I had no real prospect of paying it back within 20 years if I was working on New Zealand wages in New Zealand. Japan had better wages, a bigger economy, it had all the multinational companies we hear. We have all the Microsofts and Googles and whatever in New Zealand, but they're usually little offices of one or two people. And we've got a country of very educated people, everyone competing for those one or two jobs. Japan has big offices. Far more opportunities to get into the sort of, the top tier of the global economy. And, and I figured, you go to America, you're competing against Americans as a New Zealander. It's hard to do that. If I came to Japan where I had some expertise with the language and so on, I figured I'd have an advantage standing out and adding some extra value here. So, I invested a lot of time, a lot of study, and I absolutely came to Japan as a land of opportunity. I made the joke tweet on this, that, I look around and I see no sheep, and I think, yes, I definitely did come to Japan seeing it as a land In fact, I believe the question originally pondered was, has Japan been a land of opportunity for you? And I look around, I see no sheep, and I say, yes, definitely. Um, it's a little bit of an exaggeration put down of New Zealand, but seriously, from the beginning, absolutely, I came with a plan. It took a long time to execute to the ultimate plan, which was getting, into sort of a multinational in the way that I wanted to. It took me about 10 years to do that. And it built up over a long time, but yes, I had a plan, and an objective of not being in the situation of having to go back to New Zealand to work, and doing better here than I would do back at home, such as it is. I don't have a home in New Zealand anymore. So for me, absolutely, although I am actually very curious to hear the stories of, particularly of non-native English speakers, and I actually do respect people who come here from developing countries. There's a lot of Ghanaians, a lot of Cameroonians in Japan, a lot of Nigerians, and they're coming to Japan from a very, very different background and a very different sort of perspective. I mean, New Zealand is still we're all privileged, I suppose, in spite of the fact that Japan offers, to my eye, better opportunities. At the same time, I do recognise that I'm still coming here from a very different position to someone coming from a country still considered to be a developing country. And I respect even more the way that people come here. I think the experiences of Nigerians coming to Japan are a lot more like my own grandparents coming to New Zealand. Mostly from England, but also from parts of in Eastern Europe and stuff like that. And I think giving up everything, risking everything to try to set up a life and that you own, it's very cool. So okay, I'd like to read that. I've spent a lot of time talking about that, but I think it's a good question, and it actually does touch on the heart of how I look at Japan, so why not? I stop, I look around, I don't see any sheep, and then I have no choice but to respond yes. That's my response. Mr. Gordychev, there's a down face on lawyers. Lawyers are awesome, dude. Seriously, I'm saying that because I have to say that. That is not true, Mr. Gordy. Bad lawyers do that, and there are bad lawyers, but good lawyers don't. The whole point is that people... where do you even start with that? Lawyers' jobs are to give the best legal advice to the people that they they are representing. It's the idea being that you get the truth out of that system, and even when people are guilty, they still have the right to be correctly judged, even if that's guilty. I mean, and I know everyone's thinking about a criminal context, and I don't deal with that. The interesting thing about being a lawyer is that you don't really get to choose your side. Your side is chosen for you. It's the client that walks up to you. But the point is, unless it's a situation where, there are rare situations where you do have to walk away, or you can't represent somebody or whatever, your job is not to judge, it's not to be the judge yourself, it's to make sure that this person gets an appropriate representation, and everybody is entitled to that. And the whole TV movie thing about, lawyers lying to try to get their playing tricks to get their clients off. I've never worked with a lawyer that operates like that, not one. I've been lucky I've worked with good lawyers, but that's it's not true. So anyway, I'm sorry you have a negative image of that, but actually no, I do take pride in what I do, so what can I do about that? Hiko, the documentary, the long play and the end game. Well, I did all of that. I'm not going to sit here and defend lawyers all night, because I don't expect people to like. But the point is that I came here with a trade. I mean, hell, I could have been an electrician, I could have been an engineer, I could have been a rocket scientist, I could have been a pharmacist, and I know people who do all of those sort of things. They all come here. Some of them come here and aspire to be carpenters. I know people who've succeeded at that. I know people who've come here and worked for pharmaceutical companies, accountants. Maybe it's not sexy to everybody, but point is, I was trained in a trade, and I recognize that there are better opportunities in Japan if I came and I did it here, and that's proven to be absolutely correct. Yay, Japan! I mean, and plus, I also know people who consider English teaching a trade, and respect to them. I actually have a huge respect for people who take the responsibility for teaching English. Who do it seriously, not as a gap year or a way to make easy money, but as something that they take as a vocation. And again, there's good opportunities here. So, yeah. Mr. Cordychap, you probably had a bad experience with a lawyer who should have been disbarred for being unethical, because you're assuming that all lawyers are unethical, and we have higher ethical standards than any other profession. And people can lose their licenses and get disbarred for doing things that are totally normal in most other jobs. So in spite of the negative image that I know that you and a lot of people have, I take pride in it. So, and I'm not here to talk about that anyway, but fine. So yes, engineers and scientists are in the other direction. They're not the other direction. Everyone's the same. Everyone has vocations, things that they want to focus on in life, and Japan offers various opportunities for people to do that better than back home. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But from my perspective, it was definitely an opportunity coming here. So let's go on. The Japanese government. One thing, Abe has been very popular, like amazingly, 13 years now or something like that. He's been pretty much every opinion poll has been insane. Even popular governments generally, if they can keep above 40% approval, they're doing okay. But he's been over 50% for a very long time. But the latest Mainichi survey, for the first time, approval for the current Japanese government has dropped below 36%, and that is directly linked to a scandal where it looks like Abe and the people around him have tried to influence another university funding case with the Ministry of Education, and where they attacked the character of a person who confirmed some documents showing government pressure, inappropriate government pressure on a certain tender. And they said it was all lies. They said that they investigated. They did another. It came out by lots of other people came and validated that no, that guy who they're trying to discredit was telling the truth, and they've seen the same documents. And they did another investigation this week, and they found that the documents were genuine and that it was true, and the government was lying and covering up unethical behaviour. And this week is the first time their approval has gone down to 36%. So the current it's called the Kake. Kake is the name of the school, but it's an accounting college funding thing. It's frankly not that sexy in terms of it being a scandal, but the fact that the Ministry of Education supported the government trying to cover up internal documents showing that bureaucrats were feeling like there was inappropriate pressure being brought by the cabinet. It's damaging the government probably more than anything's ever happened with Abe. He's had a pretty free run that it's gone since he got in. Shota Bodega, good to have you along there. So this is out of the things that could have hurt Abe today, this is doing it the most. So you've got two elements though that what you really need. One, you need the government to have its credibility damaged, and that's happening. The second thing you need is a credible opposition to replace that government. And that's what we're still lacking, frankly, in Japan. I would love the Democrats to step up and present themselves as being a little bit more credible. I think the media isn't very cooperative with making them look good. I think this is the same situation people feel is the case with Labour and so on in the UK. I don't think it's quite even as bad or as unbalanced or biased as the UK, but at the same time I do think there are genuine issues with the Democrats just internally getting their stuff together to present themselves as an alternative government. But still, you never know. We've got the opportunity is beginning to present. Abe is for the first time showing a drop in popularity. So there you go. Well, failed lawyers, Mr. Cordychap, I'd say. If they're not practicing lawyers when they become politicians a lot of the time. Although the good politicians are lawyers indeed. I'll take credit. But yes, that's right. So what else have we got here that's been interesting? We've got this is an interesting one. This was featured on the news tonight for Father's Day in Japan. The news has presented this in a very strange way. In fact, there's an English version of this by Nippon.com where they presented the same data, but basically for the first time, apparently there's been these statistics taken for decades in Japan. Once every 10 years the government does a survey on people that how children see the people around them in the world, people that they hold, that they respect, people that they see as being close to them. In fact, let's go into the specific data. It was specifically people that they respect, people that they see as friends, and people who they just see as being, whatever type people. And apparently the standing of fathers in this group dropped 2.1% from 10 years ago to 61.5%, but it's basically always been about the same. It's always been about 61.5%. But what has happened that stands out on this most recent survey is that the respect for mums, which has always been lower than dads, it's always been like it used to be. It's gone on a line like this. It used to be like below 40%, 40-ish%. It went up 50s and 60s. Now it's jumped to 68.1%. It's the first time ever in these government surveys they've found that kids respect their mums more than their dads. And the NHK was covering this, saying, well, this is a terrible thing for dads. Dads need to figure out how to get more respect. And here's a case of, taking your kids to work day or whatever, and dad's trying to show them what they're doing. But they expect that the reason for the analysis of the government is that the reason that mums now for the first time garner more respect than dads is that increasing number of mums not only look after the kids at home, but they also work the same as a dad does. So overall they're seen by the kids as working harder than the dads, which I think is true and well deserved. So I don't think this is a crisis for dads. The dads' respect hasn't gone down. I mean, it's gone down like two points or whatever, but practically it hasn't really ever changed. It's that mum's respect has gone up, deservedly so. And yet the interpretation is that this is a crisis for the dads because they need to make sure they remain more respected than the mums. Well, maybe they need to do what the mums are doing. And I say this as a completely inadequate, guilty person myself. I don't know. I think this is good news. I think it's great that mums are getting more respect, and it makes me wonder why they didn't get respect in the past. I mean, again, the inferences from the commentary given with it that because they used to be predominantly homemakers or whatever, and they would see the dad as being the one providing for the family solely, which was indeed the case. Even 20 years ago, that was still maybe more the norm. That's changed, and the result is that there's a lot of burden being put on mums, and kids can see that and they're recognizing it. Great, and it's an interesting statistic anyway. I thought it wasn't something to be looked upon negatively for dads. But there we go. What else have we got here? We've got so here we go down the bottom there. Mothers respected more than fathers in Japan. I think this is all just a good thing. What else have we got in here that's interesting? I saw a poster today. Oh, I saw a snake. Check that out. Snake in Yotsuya. I've never seen a snake in Japan before. I'm from New Zealand where there are no snakes or poisonous bugs or anything. So in Australia, I'm constantly terrified of everything. I've seen a couple of snakes in my life, like in Singapore and Australia and stuff, but I've never seen a snake in Japan. I always figured that they were around here somewhere. But there's one. I was just walking around and my son was like, hey, look at that, it's a snake. And I'm like, no, it couldn't be a snake. Oh my god, it's a snake. It was like, seriously, like 1 centimeter. It was very, very thin. It was like a big earthworm almost. It was a small snake, but it was, it was pretty cool seeing that. Abel Rosario, are you here in the comments? Happy birthday if you are watching, and if you were there in the comments. Oh, that's good to see. Oh, Abel, I see that you were there. Happy Father's Day, and selfishly point out it's your own birthday. Not selfish at all. Happy birthday, Abel. Awesome. This was interesting. I spotted this in a train station the other day. Fake marriage is a crime. It says up the top that a fake marriage is a crime, subject to penalties of up to 5 years imprisonment and 500,000 yen fine, which is about $5,000. Just so that you know. And it's not clear whether they're talking about loveless marriages or marriages for visa applications, although the fact that it is given in English and then in Chinese and then in Korean and then in, good question, there's that Bahasa, I believe, and then it's Thai, and then is in Cyrillic, so it must be Russian. That was very interesting. I've never seen this sort of public service announcement before. I do wonder if people would see this in loveless Japanese marriages and try to get their husbands put in jail for saying that their marriages were invalid. But there you go. European foods first. Okay, I think this is the first reference from the title. Indeed, I haven't talked about racist landlords yet or cord cutting or Dennis Rodman, so yes. European foods may become cheaper in Japan. Japan is currently negotiating a free trade agreement, a bit like the TPP with Europe. The TPP itself, of course, a complete failure because 1, the Americans pulled out, but 2, They managed to successfully negotiate that they would protect dairy products and a lot of food and agricultural products, which meant the whole point of having a free trade agreement, from my perspective, was completely lost. And all this happening while Japan was continuing to have very frustrating potato and butter shortages, and no hope of being able to fix that through imports. However, Japan has quietly proceeded with similar negotiations with the European Union, which I guess is going to exclude England, so Germany and France and all those good countries. And it looks like they are going to be able to import food here, and maybe the farmer lobby just weren't, they took their eye off the ball, or the Japanese government did it very quietly. But there is a chance here that chocolate, cookies, pasta, in fact, does it say butter anywhere? Let's have a quick look. In fact, I think that's the sign up thing, so I can't see that. Maybe I can see it. Butter, do they mention butter? Talks are taking place, but basically processed foods. Well, I guess. Oh, the EU is asking Japan to concede on dairy. Go Europe, go Europe, you can do it. Beef, pork and other agricultural products. Well, Japan is asking the EU to abolish a 10% tariff on Japanese vehicles. Stay strong, Europe. Hold on. No abolishment of the tariff unless you get those agricultural products in. Come on, you're Germany, you're France, you can do it. Don't back down on this. They're also zeroing in on familiar European processed foods, and that's the thing. Japanese love like cheese and stuff like that. So I think there's a really good chance. As things stand now, Japanese negotiators are willing to concede on points I think would have little impact on domestic industry. So they are looking at pasta, for example, stuff like that, which is easy. They think it would bring little harm to Japanese farmers, and I don't really care if it does. But yes, there we go. The tariff on cookies, the tariff on chocolate products. If these will go down, Japan can sell more cars. Sounds like a good deal. Bring in the milk, bring in the butter. This is fantastic news. I would love for the dairy products flooding into Japan to be from New Zealand, but I can totally live with them being French or German or whatever, just so long as we don't have these shortages anymore. Because frankly, I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again, farmers in Japan have failed the Japanese people. The agricultural system here in Japan, which is basically a Stalinist system of collectivization, which fails to produce enough to actually feed the Japanese people. I mean, over time and time again, there have been shortages due to incapability of fulfilling demand, and they won't fill the gap properly with imports. This will fix it. So yes, there is my butter rant, and Europe, seriously, and Britain. I mean, you're going to miss out on this, of course, because you're leaving Europe, and that's stupid. But never mind. You'll be with the rest of us trying to negotiate our own separate treaties with Britain, with Japan, and failing in the case of New Zealand. But I don't care, as long as the stuff gets in here one way or another, and it looks like we're going to be getting, German and French, but not British dairy products, and I'm all good with that, if it can happen. So go Europe. What else have we got here? Coming to the titles, I've got a thing on racist landlords. I think I tweeted this last night. This is 15 hours ago, so this will be around here somewhere. I got triggered. This was interesting. A boss at Bridgestone was told by his boss, "You're useless, quit right now," and then threw a large tire at the person, which people were commenting, wow, that for an old boss, he sure had a lot of strength if he could throw an entire tire at the person. This is interesting. This is Kylo Ryan, who is an author at BuzzFeed. Apparently she's born and raised in Japan. You're looking at the author profile. I started following her on Twitter. It's pretty cool what she does. She does these articles in Japanese on BuzzFeed, and she raised the issue that we all deal with, which is racist landlords. When you deal with racism in Japan, maybe the one area that I ever encounter it, the only area I encounter is in landlord and rent discrimination. A lot of landlords still universally just do not allow any foreigners to rent their apartments, and it's because they believe that all foreigners fail to obey rules about noise, about paying due consideration to neighbours, about particularly separation of garbage, which is taken very seriously in these buildings. Foreigners don't follow the rules around that. And it causes a lot of angst and upset, and because of complaints from other people about, for example, using their apartment as an Airbnb, letting their friends come and stay, making too much noise late at night. These are the things that you say, that people say, well, foreigners typically don't follow the rules on these things, and because of this, landlords are entitled to ban all foreigners from living in their buildings. And this person tried the good fight, basically pointing out how, based on citizenship, that they would say, I do not want to rent my apartment to people who do this. And the author herself, raised in Japan, so myself, I've lived here 20 years, I know the rules, I follow them. But even for me, on my 8th move in Japan, after being here for 20 years, I still run into this, and basically the excuses that you hear, well, foreigners do this, and I say, well, I don't do it, and it's like, yeah, but most of them do. So it's kind of anecdotal, and it's kind of this whole thing that, if you're not Japanese, you break the rules, and if you are Japanese, you will follow the rules, being the assumption and the justification for, frankly, being a racist landlord. So very reasonably and at length, this person pointed out in Japanese sort of what the problem is and why it's silly. However, the comments, they originally, this was picked up by Ren on Facebook, and I made the mistake of clicking this and reading the comments, and the comments on this are pretty toxic. It's just a big aggregation of stupid people. In fact, where are they? Maybe they did the right thing and they hid the comments. That would be good. Or maybe it's not visible on the web version. Let's have a quick look. Facebook no commentを見る. So what I suggest is don't look at that, because if you look at that, you will be forced to see, for example, Toru Hosokawa. Yeah, that's not really you've got it all wrong. There's no country in the world that doesn't discriminate against people. There's no race on earth like that discriminates so little as the Japanese. Put simply, the problem here is what the foreigners are doing. I love it. 2 sentences and they manage to completely contradict themselves. They're actually saying that we are the least racist people on earth. The problem is all the foreigners. You actually are being racist while you're boasting about how not racist you are. It's kind of, and I started writing comments back, and then I realized I don't want right-wing nut jobs like stalking me back, so I stopped. The next person, oh yeah, you totally got it right. I totally agree with you. The foreigners, they come to Japan under no conditions, and they come here and they manande, even when they learn the rules, they don't follow them. In Japan, there's a bunch of rules, of course, Japanese people always follow, and if you can't follow them, you get cut off. That's not discrimination, as if Japanese never do that. All this sort of stuff. And again, the typical things, talking about they're noisy, they don't separate rubbish, and basically a lot of just ignorant, stupid people being really, really ignorant and stupid. So it's on display there, but bear in mind, this is BuzzFeed Japan, and these are stupid people on the internet, but this is still the problem. They're ignorant of their own, they've got complete lack of self-awareness that they are being racist while they are denying their own racism. Salidi, that's an excellent point. I can't be racist. I hate everyone. That's very, very good. I'm not racist. Some of my friends are foreigners. Some of my friends' friends are foreigners. But he's not even saying that. He's saying the problem isn't the Japanese. Japanese are not racist at all. We're the least racist people on earth. The problem is the foreigners, because they all break all the rules. It made me do that. It made me write some angry comments back where I called them basically retards, which is inappropriate. I shouldn't. And then I deleted them because I didn't want to start a conversation with them or them to come back after me. But that's what I'm talking about. And so this is still the case in Japan. This, unfortunately, is how a large number of people think. I remember there was a Human Rights Day event once at Tokyo Marine, one of my old companies, where there were there are various things like don't discriminate against Dowa people, which is the politically correct term for Burakumin, which you're not supposed to say in Japan. And they did a thing on that, and then another week they did a thing on foreigner discrimination. Of course, being the only foreigner in my company, they all said, hey, can you tell me, do you ever experience that? And there was actually, they showed rent discrimination. They showed this exact issue as a case that foreigners often encounter, and they said, have you had that? And I said, yeah, I had it. It sucks. Yeah, it's horrible. And immediately 1 or 2 people there said, They did exactly like the comments here. They raised their hand and said, well, please understand, my father owns a building and he doesn't rent to foreigners, and it's not because it's racist, it's because the foreigners don't follow the rules. And I kind of turned around and I said, I'm sitting right here, I follow the rules. It's very upsetting and frustrating that I can't find an apartment. And you know, you're making assumptions about all foreigners based on the behavior of a subset of foreigners. She was like, no, it's all the foreigners. Until foreigners improve their behavior, it's not racism, it's just being logical. I was told that at work by a co-worker in Human Rights Understanding Week class. I was completely triggered by it, so it was kind of funny. I was completely exasperated, and this is still something that you have to deal with when you come to Japan. I'd say it's all pretty good. You don't, and I'd almost agree with half of that comment. That real nasty racism you probably experience less than in a lot of places here, especially if you look like me. But it does happen, and there it is on display. It's kind of shocking. So yes, we've covered racist landlords. We have covered EU butter. Yeah, that's just so horrible. What did I say about this? I put this in Japanese first. I said, yeah, I said the only way I can view this is like all the stupidest people in Japan got together and wrote comments on BuzzFeed on this article. It's actually kind of astonishing. Is what I said, but I was completely triggered by that. I like keyboards. They have new keyboards, iPad Pro, lots of cool stuff. Update on the Mars plans. I talked about New Zealand Maori. They got thrashed by the Lions. They made a lot of errors. I think they deserved it. I'm glad they got the, and frankly it means that the matches with the All Blacks are going to be good. I'm going to watch the Blues versus the Sunwolves, July 15 at Chibunomiya. It's going to be awesome. It's a rugby game. Don't worry if you're not interested in rugby, but it is good. Takata, the old airbag with the flying bolts killing people, airbag maker, is going into bankruptcy, which, they handled that whole thing so badly. I mean, starting with the fact that they made airbags that shot bullets out that, bolts out that killed people. Apart from that, and then every step after that they just handled completely wrong. So I suppose that's sort of what happens, but there we go. 20% of Japanese elderly still support their fully grown kids. Increasing phenomenon. I think it's partly because there's a lot of only children in Japan, and so they get kind of a little bit overlooked after. Confederations Cup, what happened to New Zealand? Bob Turner is asking what happened to New Zealand. Hell, well, given that New Zealand doesn't have to compete in Oceania against Australia anymore, did we lose? And if we lost, we would have had to have lost. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what the news on that is, but who were we playing? I mean, in Oceania, in FIFA, the easiest group is the one that New Zealand is in. It gives us not a free ride directly to the World Cup. We have to play a South American country or something to get in. But basically, to come the top of Oceania, you have to beat Fiji or New Caledonia or Vanuatu, pretty much. I mean, they're the only. Each country has like a couple 100,000 population against New Zealand, 4.5 million. So we should win that easily. I'm assuming that we lost. Bob Turner, tell me what happened. Who did New Zealand lose to? Did we lose to Fiji or Solomon Islands or New Caledonia? God, that would be awful. But there again, Russia beat New Zealand. Oh, Confederations Cup. So New Zealand was representing Oceania against Europe, which I guess Russia must have won. Well, the problem is that New Zealand, isn't that good at soccer. So that's not that. And Russia's a pretty good team, by the way. I mean, New Zealand's always dependent in soccer on having one or two decent players, which I don't know if we have at the moment. So yeah, it's basically that we suck. Oh yeah. Someone got the anthem wrong, which was pretty embarrassing. Yeah. Lizzie Marvelly, well, she seemed very upset about it, so we'll go easy on it. Let's talk about Otto Warmbier and Dennis Rodman, Ambassador Rodman. So, where to begin with this? You guys all know the story about this guy, right? It's been pretty big news this week, but let's paint the picture. Let's do some background and let's talk about Mr. Kordychek, actually, it's the correct term for soccer is soccer. It was called soccer before it was called football. In fact, the original football was rugby. The union, the arm of football that became rugby, were the original owners of the word football. Soccer Association of Football, actually it was soccer before. If you have a look on Wikipedia, football, the original football is actually rugby, although no one who plays rugby calls rugby football, but certainly soccer is the correct terminology. Historically, from an English perspective of the people who invented soccer, soccer is the correct term for football, even though I do acknowledge it is the globally accepted standard term for soccer now. And fine, I mean, both terms are correct, but where I come from, we call it soccer. So there you go. North Korea. Let's talk about North Korea. So North Korea is the government of North Korea is a bad government. And they've traditionally been, as much as you think that, it's just that America hates them and that, they're just like Cuba and they're being bullied because they're fighting up against, the capitalist powers and all that sort of stuff, and they're just like everyone else. And the people, sure, I mean, people are people everywhere, and I accept that much, but the government there is seriously fucked up. I mean, some people need to be reminded of this sometimes, just how incredibly fucked up the government there is. I have North Korean friends. I know people like in Japan who are North Korean citizens, and they're perfectly normal people and good friends and so on. And I'm very careful to avoid talking about home country politics with that stuff, but holy shit. North Korea, I mean, they went and abducted randomly. They picked civilians off the beaches in Japan to go back and teach their spies how to act Japanese, even though there are 4th and 5th generation North Koreans living in Japan, completely loyal to the regime in North Korea, who would happily teach their spies how to act like Japanese people, but they didn't trust their own polluted North Koreans who live in Japan. They had to get genuine Japanese to coach their spies. So they went and they kidnapped people off the streets. They kidnapped leftist activists from Europe. They kidnapped women and children off beaches in Japan. They took them back there and they trained their spies with them. When they captured American soldiers who tried to defect during the Korean War, they brainwashed them, they tortured them. The pilots that they captured, for example, they brainwashed them and actually convinced them that they were dropping biological weapons when they weren't, but they tortured them to the extent that they believed what they were saying by the time they made these confessions. And people didn't understand the sort of brainwashing techniques being used, but this was being done with the Chinese and the North Koreans together. They figured out how to do this, how to use these people for propaganda. They abducted hundreds of South Koreans, dozens of other nationalities, but particularly Japanese and South Koreans, and they didn't just take these people and put them in a theme park. They isolated, they psychologically broke down, destroyed, physically beat up these people, tortured them, imprisoned them for decades, and most of them are still not allowed out. I mean, Japan basically had to trick North Korea to get its abductees out. Random tourists, there was when a bunch of Red Army, the Al Qaeda of the 1970s was the Japanese Red Army. They were all over. They were shooting up and blowing up airports in Israel, bombing airplanes. These were Japanese people, and a bunch of them, when the police were coming for them, hijacked an airplane. They took it to North Korea, seeking asylum. When all the hostages from the airplane that they hijacked were coming off the plane in Pyongyang, which was supposed to be going to Seoul, one of the passengers was shouted something about "down with Kim Jong-il, he's a scumbag," which granted probably wasn't a smart thing to do when you're coming off a plane in North Korea, but he was a hostage. He was supposed to be flown back to Japan, and the police had no problem. They took him away, and that passenger was never seen again. Never seen again. They shot a civilian hostage that they were in the process of returning to Japan because he said something bad about Kim Jong-il. So, tourists, they had a tourist resort in North Korea for South Koreans to go to. With the borderline, one old lady wanted to walk up to the fence line of the resort to see what was on the other side. And it was a shot by one of the guards. They shoot the tourists that go outside of the fence. That regime is messed up as hell. Yet in spite of that, some people still want to go there as tourists and go and see the place. And yes, when some people went there as tourists, which you can do, it's not recommended. In fact, it's an embargoed country by Japan and America, a bunch of other things. However, some Americans thought it'd be fun to go over there And when they were there on this tour, organized by this tour company in North Korea, one of the students decided on his last night in North Korea that he was staying in a completely spied-on, monitored hotel with minders who take these people around. He thought it'd be a really fun idea to take down a sign as a souvenir, one of the propaganda signs in Korean, up on the wall. We will all do our best for Kim Jong-il, kind of let's go everybody, kind of a propaganda poster. He wanted to take it down, one would have to guess, as a souvenir. And he was caught on his final day when he was supposed to be heading to the airport as having stolen this little poster. And this was at a time when relations were once again collapsing between America and North Korea, so they thought, fine, we're going to take this guy prisoner for trying to bring down the regime by stealing the poster. And he disappeared for a long time, for a number of months. He came out on trial, where he did what you do in this situation, which is that you just do whatever the hell they tell you to do. You confess to everything, you play ball, you give them the propaganda that they want, because you are alone and you have no help, and they can kill you, they can make you disappear. If you ever put yourself in that situation, when Israeli spies get caught, they are trained to give away all the information, and if they have information about other spies, the Israeli spy agencies will assume that they're going to give all the information rather than tell them to resist torture as long as you can. And this is a civilian, this is a kid, a student that they took. They interrogated him for a number of months. He came out a complete mess. He did a publicized trial where he confessed to crimes against the regime or whatever. And he was sentenced to something like 10 years hard labor. And then he disappeared again. No one could contact him for a year. And then all of a sudden, just as Dennis Rodman's about to go over to North Korea, he's released all of a sudden. And they say that immediately after the trial, he collapsed. He fell into a coma. And he's been in a coma for the last 12 months. They blame it on a disease called botulism, which is basically associated with lack of hygiene. It could happen in North Korea, but apparently they since have looked at him, and apparently they don't think his coma was triggered by botulism. It appears to be trauma-based, i.e. he was beaten into a coma or something. And the part of his brain, he's lost a huge amount of brain tissue in the part of the brain that controls speech, which again reads to me like he was lobotomized. I mean, nothing in the news is suggesting that he was actually lobotomized, but they are saying it's a trauma-based injury. They're still not sure of the exact cause of the brain injury that put him into a coma for 12 months. But he was in a coma, and the authorities there never told anyone. They never told the Americans, they never told the family that this person is in a coma. They let him stay in a coma for 12 months. And then when Donald Trump apparently sent Dennis Rodman, I don't know if it was official or not, over there, they let the person go. And now the family have his body, vegetative state, coma, whatever, back in America. And these are the people that we're dealing with, and we're hoping are going to be reasonable and cut some sort of deal and stop firing rockets and being dicks. And Japan's been dealing with these people for a long time, and Japan plays tough with North Korea, and I deal with a lot of people saying that Japan's being too tough and they're missing out on the opportunity of cashing in on the boom of opening up North Korea by not giving them a bunch of aid with the Sunshine Policy and so on back in the 90s. And Japan didn't do it because Japan has a bunch of abductees that it wants North Korea to free, and they're not going to give them any concessions until they get that. This is what happens to people who are there in custody. They're not in Disneyland. When Jenkins, the US soldier who came out, he gave accounts that they were broken down. Him and the other US soldiers who defected to North Korea seeking asylum were locked up and forced to beat up each other, as part of the brainwashing process. And he received terrible beatings from the other soldiers who were still there in North Korea, basically to make them feel too guilty to go back to America. I mean, these are just sick people. Yes. So, Lady, that is a terrible comment, but yes, it's kind of funny. People are saying that they wonder how they fed him and whatever. Look, he's a coma patient. I assume he was in a hospice. I assume that he was looked after like any coma patient. They probably did take care of him. They probably did have him on intravenous, and feed him and do whatnot, cut his hair and do all the stuff that you do with coma patients. But they didn't even think to let anyone know. The Red Cross, US Embassy, family, anyone, that he was in that situation. And again, this is just a reminder of I don't think, however you deal with North Korea, I'm not saying go in there and, bomb the place and change the regime, but I'm saying so long as you're dealing with the regime there, any hope that you have that this is in any way a country that can be treated like a normal country, that this is just, a country being victimized for its political beliefs by a huge hegemonic America. No, these are messed up people. And this is a regime that's so afraid of, any kind of threat, that this is what they do to students, to foreign student tourists. And these are tourists, people bringing hard currency into the country. So, two lessons. Don't go to North Korea. Seriously, I've been tempted myself. I've always thought, just to bear witness to the last sort of Stalinist regime in the world, to tell grandkids who I hope can't believe that a place like that ever existed. I've been tempted, and people like Anna Fifield, who I've met, who is awesome, and she's a journalist, and she's been over there several times, and she's known for being like an expert on North Korea. She also knows how to behave when she's over there. But man, do not go to North Korea. It's just not worth it. I do sincerely hope that one day I will be able to go over there the same way I get to go to South Korea right now, and that my North Korean friends will be able to go back and forth, as they should be able to, completely freely, and as they were able to do until things got more tense recently. But this is just beyond the pale, as they say. So that is where Dennis Rodman, sending him over, man, I did wonder if he got one person out, perhaps if they send the whole cast of Space Jam, maybe they can get all the abductees out, and they could get North Korea to stop its nuclear program. That seems to be how Kim Jong-un thinks. If he's got a basketball player that he is a fan of, he'll do humanitarian gestures like this. Who knows? But it is pretty messed up. Kohoshida, I'm not worried about North Korea. In a sense, what I'm warning everybody else just to understand that this is North Korea. And everyone likes to be optimistic and make positive assumptions, and you just can't. Japan's approach has been has been to play hardball, and everything I've seen says that the Japanese are doing it the right way. Cord cutting in Japan, I'll talk about that last. We've got 4 minutes left in the broadcast, so we'll just see if there's anything else interesting here. Basically, this is kind of interesting. Japanese gay community have made a new web series of life in Japan. It's kind of groundbreaking. I haven't actually watched it, but I thought it was interesting. I shared it, and got a lot of reshares. But yeah, if you want to get an idea of what, I'm pretty sure people don't dress like that in their normal lives. I've got gay friends in Japan, and they're pretty, at least as far as I'm aware, they're pretty normal. Who knows, maybe they do just put on leather singlets and dog collars after I go. But yes, anyway, if you do want to see a web series made by gay people in Japan, it's a very much an underground community in Japan, even though it's not, there's no religious stigma or anything against it, but it's fairly private. So it is interesting to see that someone's doing a project like that. That is interesting. I'll come on to the final subject, which is I lately have been watching almost no TV, and actually I used to talk a lot about the news because I watch the news every day, and I'm not watching it much lately, and it's because I'm watching everything on the phone. I'm watching everything on Netflix and Amazon Video, and also on J Sports on demand, where I can watch all the rugby that I want to watch, which they don't show on TV anyway, but they show it on the internet. So I'm basically lately I'm seeing everything that I want to see. This way. The only thing that I can't see is actually NHK 7 p.m. news, the 30 p.m. 7 p.m. news that I love to watch. Now, I wish that NHK would provide that show online, and I know that they've been considering it. They want to extend or increase the broadcasting fee to people who have the access to the internet as a basis for it, which kind of sucks a little bit, but at the same time, for the convenience, I would appreciate that. There we go. I'm close to the point of giving up my Sky Perfect TV subscription, because if I can watch all the rugby that I want to watch, and I can watch all the movies and TV shows from America that I want to watch, I'm really enjoying watching American Gods, which is available on Monday nights, Japan time, and Better Call Saul, a show about an unethical lawyer, but not a typical lawyer. On Tuesdays, it's still a good series, and I love Breaking Bad. I've got great. I'm loving watching it, and I'm finding as a result my screen time is going more to my iPad now than my TV. So maybe I'm slow to this, but I can see now in Japan, between having like Hulu, which I don't use, but Amazon Prime or Amazon Video, Netflix, these other services, you get pretty good coverage of pretty good TV, which I'd want to watch, and it's better than cable. It is better than cable or broadcast TV. So there we go. I'm really seriously contemplating like not even worrying about TV anymore after this. So yeah, and let's wrap it up there. Is there anything else super interesting here? Here is the Kake scandal. That's what's brought down the Japanese government's popularity at the moment that I was talking about earlier. Otto Warmbier is home, but questions abound about his time in North Korea. Yeah, no shit. And you have to assume, here's the thing, you have to assume that everyone else, there's a number of Americans currently in custody in North Korea, there's hundreds of South Koreans, dozens of Japanese abductees, and maybe not everyone is in the same situation that Otto was in, but you have to presume anything up to that is possible. And you certainly also have to presume that wherever they are, they're not being well treated, they are imprisoned. And it's just crazy. I mean, it's like a freaking, evil kingdom in a Disney movie. Where they lock up all the children in the dungeon. It's literally what they're doing. I mean, it's just insane. There was this week, actually, a big Filipino container ship crashed into one of the Aegis destroyers. An American Aegis destroyer killed 7 people, crushed, nearly sank the ship all the way down to the keel. It breached the hull. Incredible, actually, that the ship didn't sink. But also, don't underestimate the significance of the damage this actually really does to the security situation. Those Aegis destroyers, they contain missile information systems that can detect launches anywhere in China, Russia, North Korea, and coordinate the missile defense responses and so on. And Japan has a couple of them, and America has a couple of them, but they perform a very, very important function. So assuming that the ship is out of commission, these ships are very, very expensive. They're the most high-tech things that the Navy has. And it's a reminder that, geez, it just takes a wayward container ship and you can destroy one of them. So there you go. Yes, Dennis Rodman wore various shirts. This is photoshopped apparently, but there we go. There he is. And what the hell is he doing? I guess it was good if his visit had any connection to getting the guy out, but at the same time, and I'm the biggest advocate of dialogue and communicating and positive human-to-human ties and all that sort of stuff. But now it's not the time to be sucking up to that government. So yes, kind of frustrating with North Korea, but it is part of being close to here. Japan, EU to boil down EPA negotiations. Yes, get the butter here. Interesting, I posted this. Does Japan's 5-yen coin need a foreigner-friendly redesign to have the actual number 5 written on it rather than the Japanese character for it? And I got like 20 responses no from foreigners. But so I guess the answer will be yes. Who knows? This is the only coin or any type of Japanese currency which doesn't have a Western numeral on it, the 5-yen coin. It's pretty easy to figure out, but I do get it. If you have tourists who are just visiting Japan, it might be a little bit confusing to figure out what kind of coin it is. So there you go. It's been an interesting week. It'll be an interesting week next week as well. Come and join me again next week, same time, 11 p.m. Japan Standard Time for another Tokyo Tonight, going through the latest tech news and Japan news and everything that's going on and my take on it. Very thanks to everyone for joining. There in the comments. Usually I pay more attention and respond to the comments, but did a little bit of that tonight, not as much as I'd like to, but who knows, we'll be back next week and we can do it all again. So have a good week, everybody. Happy Father's Day, happy morning, afternoon or evening. Have a good day there, have a good week, and see you. Western US, an Indian numeral. Mr. Kordychev, thank you for the correction. In fact, is it Indian or Arabic? I think isn't I thought it was wasn't it Arabic that invented the numbers? I don't know, but anyway, it certainly wasn't Western. So that is, thank you for the correction. I appreciate that. Oyasumi Bill A, happy birthday, Abel Rosario. Good to have you along. And yeah, so see you all later. Have a good week and peace. Boom. Awkward turning off. Shubas as here from Panama. Good to see you. Buenos dias. Yeah, Arabic. I'm pretty sure that was right. Buenos días, buenas noches. Y en la semana próxima, next week. See you later. Boom.